Hello, it's Evaleen here for episode 14 of our Neuro-affirming social skills program. We are using Konnect Book 3. If you've missed any of these episodes, do go to the beginning and start watching them. They'll make a lot more sense if you've taken the journey starting from one. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for listening. Thank you for all your feedback. It's always really helpful for me to get feedback, so I know what I can talk, what people want to hear more about. So please do let me know in the comments or drop us a PM. Today I'm going to talk about decoding social rituals. So, this whole idea of social skills is interesting because decoding social rituals could be seen as, well, that's teaching social skills. So I think, we have to be careful what we're calling social skills and what we're not, because traditionally and predominantly when we talk about social skills, it is about imposing neuroconformative social skills on an autistic child, teen, or adult. But maybe self-advocacy could be considered social skills. So it's an interesting discussion. And I think for myself, I'm going to be moving away from that word social skills anyway, because I keep doing this every time I say social skills, because it's not really the right word. It's not the right word because it's been so tainted. It's like that word behavior. It has so many negative connotations for our community. I try to avoid it. I try to talk about actions and things instead, because I just feel like behavior has such negative connotations for all of us in our community. So I'm thinking of social navigation. It's actually a word I thought of, or term, years ago, that this is what we're doing. We're, I suppose, helping and supporting our autistic young people to navigate their social world. So social navigation, I think, is going to be the term. If you have any other suggestions, let me know, because I am struggling with the social skills. So decoding social rituals is definitely beneficial, because what you're doing is you're helping them to translate what other people are doing, why they're doing it, and it is, I suppose, taking away a lot of that confusion. So let's have a look at page 9 of Konnect 3. As I said, if you have the books, wonderful. If you don't, just make your notes and you can just do it that way. Some rituals in our social world can be confusing for autistics. Some can make no sense to us at all. Here's an example I like to use. When people say, "How are you?" but then they don't really want to know how you are, that's a very confusing one for us. It's confusing because we mean what we say. We're the literal expressors. It is also confusing because we'd like to know why people ask questions when they don't want to know the answer. When some people meet, they do a thing called chit-chat. It's when they exchange words, but are really not asking anything. And I know that's confusing, right? This is like really confusing for a lot of autistic people. But if we break it down and explain it to kids, we make it less confusing. We're not forcing them to take part in it. It just means, oh, that's the chit-chat thing people are doing. Okay. It's a social ritual, basically. And in this ritual, people are making mouth sounds that don't really matter or mean anything, because what they're really doing is trying to see where they fit in this hierarchy thing I mentioned last week in the last episode. They're looking for signals and signs from each other so they can know who's more important than the other. Okay, so this is one part of it. Signals might be the sort of clothes the other person's wearing, because clothes for some people are signs of importance. The idea probably goes back a long way in our human history, when certain colors like red and purple were only worn by really rich people. Other signs might be how the person is holding themselves, so their posture, because some people look for signs of confidence in body language. They also look for signs of importance in body language. Other signals might be how the person speaks, because some people believe that some accents are better than others, are more important than others. That, of course, makes no sense to us, and accents just depend on where people learn their language and aren't really a sign of anything other than that. But some people put meaning on things like accents, and they believe they're better if they have a better accent. Again, very confusing, but it's good to break this stuff down. And it's good if we have these ideas to maybe challenge them a little bit as well. Just because we're autistic doesn't mean we're immune from this kind of stuff. It all depends on our conditioning and our upbringing. There are some other signals too, and they're different, and they're different depending on who's looking for them. So here you could, discuss other signals and just ask the kid, have they noticed other things? Have a discussion around that. But basically it's explaining what's going on, like what this chit chat is about, because this hi, how are you, and grand is confusing for people who ask a question and want the person, need the person to answer it, and vice versa. Now, that is simplifying chit chat, and it might sound a bit unfair to neuroconformative communicators. I mean, what also happens when people meet each other, and it's probably something we do too, is we're trying to figure out, you know, do we belong in this group? Is this person safe for me to be around? You know, there are reasons why we do this thing. We're trying to gauge, and maybe autistic people have a different way to gauge this. Maybe we can, you know, because of our empathy and sensitivity, maybe we have a different way to do this. And that's something that's really worth exploring. So, you know, for example, we might see that we have something in common with a person because they're wearing a badge, or because they might be carrying a tennis racket, or whatever. We might feel more comfortable with people who dress in a similar way to us. You know, we might feel intimidated if someone's like all dressed up and glamorous and we're not, or we might find that, you know, something we're not into at all, and we might be looking for somebody who is, you know, dressed all in black or whatever, you know. And maybe discuss this with the child. What stuff makes you feel unsafe is probably a good word to use. It doesn't mean the child is unsafe, just what makes you feel unsafe, uncomfortable, and maybe we could start labeling some of these things as well as we're going through this exercise. So of course there are times when people make us feel unimportant, and that's a slightly different topic that we will go into in other books. So what we're really talking about is this chit chat, okay? This social ritual, and decoding that, and maybe looking at how we feel when, you know, we interact with people, and why chit chat is confusing, and what we can do instead, and can we advocate for ourselves in this situation, you know? And I suppose talking to, you know, asking the questions. When we question something that doesn't make sense to us, then people have a choice, because sometimes autistic people do ask or do question these things, and then sometimes people don't meet that question as just a question. You know, they think it's something else. Being cheeky again, it's miscommunication that's happening. So, you know, people have a choice when they're asked a question. They can answer this question and explain. They might get offended because they think they're more important and should not be questioned. They may become defensive because they're not very sure of the answer themselves. So there's lots of different responses, and it's good to, you know, understand that as well, because this is what, you know, communication is about. It's just trying to figure out, really, because our communication is not perfect, but this is a lovely opportunity to break that down with your child or the kid you're working with, and would make a wonderful classroom discussion, you know. And, you know, these things are culturally different as well. It's not like this is the way that neuroconformative people or non-autistic people communicate. It's going to be various. It's going to vary across culture. So what a wonderful, rich lesson that would be if you had a group of kids as well. So thank you so much for joining me. If you want to keep up to date with what we're doing, do pop on to awesometraining.com, sign up to our mailing list. We're always sending out lots of little interesting information, and, you know, keeping you up to date with everything that's happening with us at Awesome Training. So thank you so much for joining me again. See you next week.